How you doing, brother?
I am doing wonderful. I appreciate a young man of this generation taking such a responsibility in bringing this type of forum to our community.
Thank you, thank you. It takes a team. Shout out to my team out here, everybody that's behind the cameras doing their thing. So, you are running for Fulton County Sheriff Office, right?
That's correct.
Tell me, how did we get there? What made Charles Rambo want to run for Fulton County Sheriff Office?
Well, let me first start off that I'm a native of Gary, Indiana. And I grew up in the same neighborhood, in fact, right across the street from Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5.
Really? Did you see him growing up?
I did not. My mom actually grew up with them. I was able to reunite them here recently, and they knew each other right off of the bat.
Oh, wow.
Down the street from us was Avery Brooks, the guy that played Spencer on Hulk. Spencer on... what was it? Spencer for Hire, Hulk. That was his name. And then around the corner, we had the late, great William Marshall, who played in the black exploitation movies Blackula.
Yeah.
So I say all that is to say is that all these guys from my neighborhood, including the great Glenn Robinson, Goose,
the dog?
From
Milwaukee Bucks?
From Milwaukee Bucks.
Remember, Ali, I told you I had those sneakers? I got clowned in
Glenn
class.
Robinson.
I wore some Glenn Robinsons to school when I was younger, and they clowned me forever. But I see you, Rob. Don't laugh at me. It's
Well,
all
we
good.
actually played basketball. In my generation, we played basketball. Now, if you thought Glenn Robinson was something,
Yeah.
his dad was the bomb.
Oh, okay.
And I say all this is to say that I come from a neighborhood of talent and greatness. I just felt that it's my time to step up and shine.
Yeah.
And when I got here to Atlanta, I originally was in the funeral industry.
Yeah.
I went to Gupton Jones Mortuary College. That was my lifelong ambition, but I took a turn.
How was that? Working at a morgue or a funeral home, how was that?
Well, it was a connection. It was a connection to families. It was a connection to community. It was a connection to politics.
Yeah.
It was a connection to people who were in need. And eventually, watch how this works out for me getting into law enforcement. I immediately had thought about, because I had a forensic background, that I would want to be a homicide detective. Instead, I went into the sheriff's office, where we did not have that type of service, but nonetheless, that experience gave me name recognition in communities because I had served families.
Yeah, understood.
I had served black families in their time of need, and they remembered me along the way. And that was my transition coming from Gary to Atlanta. When they found out that I was from Gary, Indiana, it was like, no, don't give that brother no problems right there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of anything nefarious that I had did, but because of the resilient history that follows behind us. So I was able to get into law enforcement and became the union president, served 3 terms, and I was able to fight for issues relating to sheriff's deputies for communities, and I did it a couple of times. My most closest that I got was in 2004 when I got into a runoff out of 7 candidates. All of that is what pushed me into public service, into the office of sheriff, because I have a passion for serving people, particularly our people. If you notice that the Fulton jail is 87.4% black.
So I'm gonna take it back a little bit before.
Sure.
So your career as a mortician, right? How do you compartmentalize that in your regular life? Like, how do you put that aside and go about your day, and when you deal with so much death and things like that?
Well, I asked the funeral director that I worked for. I said I could not understand how I really made the transition. He said, death is what humanized you. Death is what gave you the sense of humanity, of how to serve people. How to come into communities and deal with them. Whenever I go to any community, I have street name, street credibility, recognition anywhere that I go. And the brothers will come to a pause, not out of fear, but out of respect, because they remember how I served them at the county jail. I had a very firm, no-nonsense attitude about how I conducted business, but it was something to help mold and to grow them.
Understood. I like that. So answer this question for me. Every time you turn on the news, there's something going on in Fulton County.
That's correct.
In your opinion, what is going wrong with Fulton County Sheriff Office right now?
Right now, and it's not a slap at the incumbent, but right now, as you can see, there's a lack of leadership. There's a lack of leadership that knows how to operate in the realm of being a sheriff. Being a sheriff is totally different than being a police officer. I teach this because
What's the difference?
Well, I'm a public policy expert on the office of sheriff. I teach on the constitutional role of sheriff, which is designated by the state constitution, that says is that every county is mandated to have a constitutional officer of sheriff, clerk of superior court, the tax assessor, as well as the probate court judge.
Okay.
So these are 4 constitutional officers that typically urban communities, metro communities, don't ever have a real appreciation for, because everything is so metropolitan towards cities.
Understood.
So the sheriff is essentially your chief law enforcement officer of the county. By law, constitutional law says is that the sheriff has an inherent duty and responsibility to determine the public safety needs, and he alone can make that particular decision without political influence. And that's why I'm running on a nonpartisan ticket, because the sheriff's office essentially should be nonpartisan. It should not be dictated by politics.
Indeed. Now, how do you plan on working with Fulton County Commissioners as far as the funding? Right now, I see that they froze the inmates fund, things like that. How do you plan on working with some of the commissioners? Oh, you brought paperwork.
Well, see, that's what you always know. The mark, as Adam Clayton Powell said, what's in your hand?
Yeah.
As God asked Moses, what's that inside of your hand?
Sheriff, constitutional, what is this? Leadership right here?
That's correct. It's called the Constitutional Sheriff Initiative. Yeah. This is my straight plan of 365 days of reform, because I understand the role better than any of them of the independence of the agency to come before the commissioners with a constitutional-based budget transparency. That's the first mark of my administration.
Yeah.
We're going to have an office of budget, budget and management that will come in and say, hey, we have control over how we distribute the dollars, but I'm going to be accountable to show you how they flow. And that's the biggest problem that you're hearing right now. I'm not making that up. Even the sheriff at the ACLU debate said he had a 2.5 relationship on a Richter scale of how that relationship nets out. You've got to be able to come in and at least show the commissioners, but not just the commissioners, but the community. The community, this is how your tax dollars are being spent. And they're obviously not being appropriated on both sides of Prior Street.
Right. Well, you get a lot of talk about them building a new jail. You know, I seen the ankle monitors was something that they kept breaking up. They switched over vendors from that. They say that they need to hire more people, pay more staff. So what does effective leadership look like as far as first day in office for you? What would be one of the first things you would run with right away? Would it be advocating for a new jail? Would it be new monitoring services and upgrading technology, or hiring more staff?
For me, right off of the bat, I know I need to do a mass hiring, but I need to do a mass hiring of competent workforce. That means, watch this, in Atlanta alone, right down the street, here we've got the John Marshall Law School. We've got Emory Law School. You've got Georgia State Law School. You've got all the HBCUs, and you mean to tell me we can't find a competent caliber of people with college degrees to come in and set the foundation for a sound criminal justice system? This should be the Wakanda. This should be the Wakanda of America in terms of setting the standard for a better criminal justice system. So my goal is to recruit a qualified, competent workforce that will come into meaningful jobs. I have a training program where I taught how to mentor the millennials, and that helped us to retain one of the best rates of college-educated folks that came inside of the agency, and they did not necessarily look just for salary. They were looking for responsibility, and allowing them to come in and to show their worth and to see that their work was meaningful. That's what's happening in when I was there from 2009 to 2016 at the jail. Second thing is that we need to come in and to deal with the infrastructure. Nobody can challenge me to this point. Not even a commissioner, and I opened the realm up or the phone line for any commissioner to call and say that it is not their statutory responsibility for fixing that jail. That is their constitutional responsibility, not mine. My job is to operate the jail with the operations.
Real quick, where's the pushback coming from as far as
control? You can't control an independent officer. But if we could control his finances, now you control his operations.
Understood.
And I have had a relationship with the commissioners where I have come before them when I was the union president.
Yeah.
Helped to turn their mindset away from a $5 million, turn their mindset away. They initially did not want to fund locks at the jail, $5 million price tag. But when I showed them the comprehensive verifiable benefits and the verifiable consequences, if you don't do this, here's where liability is going to fall on you. And guess what? They gave us the money.
I got you. Now, I guess black families are concerned, and my thoughts are when I speak to people in the community, some of my friends, is that mental health issues in the jail, right? That's these folks should be separated and not be put in general population. Also, how did the jail get so violent? You know, like there's like 6 or 7 deaths in the last 3 months. So what's the thoughts around that as far as mental health? How do you handle that issue? And I guess you could touch on homelessness too. And then how did the jail become so violent?
Well, jails are inherently going to be violent.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. But again, when you establish under what's called Pecuniar versus Martinez, that is the case law that says is that the courts understand that prison administrators must have a deference for internal order and discipline. So what are the programs that you have in place to keep these mindsets? 2009 to 2016, you did not hear about the type of violence that you're seeing and hearing right now.
Right.
You can go and look at the federal court monitor of Foster versus Fulton County, that showed that the program that I put in place called CompStat, which is a police management system that allows for commanders to gauge their operations. We did not have this type of violence. So I really can't answer for you why this administration is not on top of it.
Right, because I guess a lot of parents, you know, you see these young kids, and like you said, yes, jail is violent, right? But if you get stopped for a DUI and you spend 3 or 4 days and you shouldn't get lost in the system, or somebody worry about their loved one coming out of county jail just for sitting there for 72 hours. And I think right now people are concerned about just what that narrative looks like in the community that they live in, right? So we're going to move forward a little bit. And what would you do as far as outreach into the community to prevent people from going to jail as a sheriff?
Well, again, I would like to come back and answer one previous question and then segue right into that. For the mental health perspective, I have been in cooperation for the past year and a half with a group of mental health professionals, and we have been looking into the process and the technology of neuroscience.
Explain that to me a little bit.
Neuroscience is just above what we call crisis intervention. It allows for officers to understand themselves first and foremost before coming into a situation, and how to diffuse and de-escalate it so it does not go to the next level. So it's a tactic of coming in and dealing with either hostile persons, high-risk situations, but more or less dealing with persons with mental illness. It allows for you to, not mind control, don't get me wrong, but it allows for you
to understand the brain.
Understand the brain and how it functions, and how you can interject certain communications that allows for you to move in and get the situation under control without it going to the next level. In terms of interventions, you've got to make the jail unattractive. And one of the ways we were able to do that from 2009 to 2016, I ran that place like a military Marine Corps barrack. There was discipline. There was order. There was structure. There was respect. In fact, the Nigerian government sent their emissaries to come over to look at what we were doing and wanted to bring us to the Nigerian prison system.
Oh, wow, that's heavy.
And when
what year was this?
This was back in 2010. 2010, after I had put CompStat into place, all of a sudden, watch this. Now you had delegations from Japan. You had delegations from Brazil. You had delegations from all over the world to come and to see the jail that they had heard was out of control.
I got you.
And they were like, this is not altogether what we've heard.
I got you.
So you've got to make the jail to the point where people want to put the word out. I don't want to come to Sheriff Rambo's jail, because at the end of the day, it's too much structure, it's too much order, and it's too much discipline. When you straighten out the jail, you will straighten out what's going on in the community.
Indeed, good response. I like that. So we're going to soften things up a little bit, right?
You know, I get intense.
I love it. We're going to bounce around a little bit, and we're going to talk about, let's see, music. What gets Charles Rambo going in the morning? What you like? Soul music, gospel music, and what's your playlist look like? What are you playing?
Well, foremost, I started out as an air drummer. So
Yeah.
I love the drums.
Yeah.
So I love anything that's drum infused. I'm a very, very, very much into straight ahead jazz.
I got you.
Oh man, I
got you.
love straight ahead jazz.
Yeah.
Billy Childs.
Yeah.
Man, one of the most talented.
Ralph, you ever heard of him, Ralph?
Mm.
Oh, you thought you was a music connoisseur and all this? You was telling me.
Deeper than me, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm about to throw some things. Gospel, man. I grew up on gospel. Love Alive 2,
Yeah.
Love Alive 3 by the Hawkins family.
Yeah.
Marvin Winans with the Perfected Praise
Yeah.
choir. Hip hop.
Yeah. Hey, tell me who you like in hip hop. I would love to hear this.
Oh God! Now you're gonna take me back
no,
to
it's all
my
good.
original because
You
I
can go
can't
ahead.
understand what the hell they're doing nowadays. It's a family show.
You know, it's all
Forgive
good.
me.
It's all good. It's all good. So let me get. Are you more like Tribe Called Quest? Are you more like Tupac? Are you more like Public Enemy?
Public Enemy.
Fights
Because
of
there was
Power.
a message behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
That was during my era when rap music was militant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And militant for a good reason was because it opened up our consciousness.
Yeah.
Being one that went to the Million Man March
Yeah, yeah.
back in the day, to hear music that united us, like in the 70s. I was telling
Yeah.
you earlier, man, Gil Scott-Heron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Winter in America. That's
Yeah.
I could listen to that all day, every day.
Do you think they should be teaching more about like Gil Scott-Heron in like schools and things like that, or you think that guy was just too heavy?
He was. I hate when people say.
Because he was heavy. He was heavy. The revolution would not be televised, and some of his work, when you just let it ride, do you think that was too woke, or they call it?
Well, and here's where me and you will hopefully agree.
Yeah.
I hate when people use the term "he was before his time."
Yeah.
Maybe he was before. Maybe he was on time, but we were not listening.
I can dig that.
And you go back to biblical principle when it says, "I'm going to clog the hearing of the people, even when you come give your message."
Yeah.
So there might be some folks that ain't meant to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, louder. Yeah, I hear you on that.
So with Gil, no, he was not before his time. He was not too heavy. He was not
Yeah.
too deep. He woke up a consciousness like in myself and you for
Yeah.
a future generation.
Indeed, he did.
That we would be able to inspire. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, indeed. No, it's all good. I'm going to throw two questions at you, and I want you to look at that camera and tell the people why they should vote for you. So the first question is state politics. Do you think Governor Kemp is doing a good job?
I believe Governor Kemp is doing a job. If I take out the partisan portions of it, Republican, Democrat, he survived some great challenges, particularly during COVID.
Right.
And I thought it was very, very genius of him during COVID to elicit and bring the sheriffs on board and said that you guys at the county level are responsible for COVID enforcement. Why? Because the sheriff, as the chief law enforcement officer, could protect the citizens' rights at the community level, away from when there were stay-at-home orders. You can't be out, you can't do this. No, the sheriff has the right to dictate, again, the public order and what it demands.
Indeed.
So I've met Governor Kemp before
Yeah.
when he was Secretary of State. So all honesty, as governor, not Republican, not Democrat, I believe he is doing a good job.
Indeed. So we're going to, next question is presidential election. How would you encourage black families to look at this election if they were voting? What's the best advice you would give to them as they go to vote for the next president?
Take the politics out of it. Take the low information that you're getting in these politics. And that applies just as much for this sheriff's race. Stop thinking at the low informational politics. You've got to look at what issues actually affect you. And at the end of the day, you're not going to have that touchstone with Biden. You're not going to have that touchstone with Trump. But you can have touchstone with your state representatives, with your congressmen who go back to D.C. and vote on these particular issues.
Yeah.
We have to get out of the feel-good of just exploiting our vote when it's time to come to the black church and to give a roo-rah hallelujah speech.
Yeah, I got you.
No, we need for you to be just as accountable in the community before you got into office, while you're running for office, and when you're casting for votes that are in our interest.
Indeed. Well done, brother. I want you to look at that camera and let the people know why they should vote for Charles Rambo come May 21st.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking for your vote. I am a write-in candidate. I'm a write-in candidate. I will not be on the upcoming May ballot. You will be able to write my name in the November 5th election. I am the only candidate that actually has an organizational-based program called the Constitutional Sheriff Initiative that has a program that will deal with 365 days of reform. How can I get that done? I already have curriculum that is ready to be put into place that Raphael can sit here and look at for himself, that is approved. No other candidate has that type of mindset to be able to come in day one ready to get the job done. I care for our community. I am not ashamed to speak for our community because it is our community that is inside of the Fulton County Jail. And we must come together as an initiative, as law enforcement as well as community, to solve our own issues. And Charles Rambo is that person to get the job done. Please visit my website at sendinrambo24.us. Sendinrambo24.us. I'm Charles Rambo. I approve this message, and I'm looking forward to serving you.
There you go. And y'all heard it first right here, Politics and Black Families. We'll catch y'all out there.
Just 1 second. Look back at this camera right here, Rambo. This one right here. And just tell us exactly, this camera right here.
Okay.
And tell us exactly what you're running for and your name again.
Yes. My name is Charles Rambo. I am running for Fulton County Sheriff, November 5th, write-in candidate.
Thank you.
Y'all heard it first right here, Politics and Black Families. And we out. Peace.